peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Viewers, good morning. This morning, I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. The legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018, that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see Sierra Leone going back to the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake, belittle the handshake. One lesson they should learn is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you.
Our destination, ladies and gentlemen, is to tackle the housing challenge, and this was inspired by the reality of our nation, Kenya, today. Based on recent census, our population now stands at 47 million people, of whom today 10 million are urban dwellers. And over 90% of town dwellers today live in rented houses, with approximately 65% of those living in informal settlements. Today we are here as a first step to launch one of our strategic partners projects, which when completed will deliver 8,888 units. And I'm informed that Habitat Heights is the first of many housing projects that the United Nations Office of Project Services and their partners plan to undertake in our country. Indeed, UNOPS is working with Housing Finance to manage and avail low-cost mortgages for our people. Moreover, first-time house owners will be exempt of stamp duty under the Affordable Housing Scheme, in addition to enjoying the doubling of the Home Ownership Saving Plan. We have also waived NEMA and National Construction Authority fees on constructions, and we are seeking various counties to follow suit by waiving their county government development fees in order once again to further reduce the cost to ordinary mwananchi. We must give ourselves a different political template if we are truly to prosper and not be dragged down every single day by never-ending squabbles. Every so often, I believe, a nation must come together. We in Kenya have done so in Lancaster in the 1960s, leading to the Lancaster Consensus. We did so in the 80s, leading to the removal of Section 2A. We also did the same in 2008. And I believe it is time now also for a new consensus. And this is the aim and objective of the BBI process. In this process of renegotiation, no voice will be wrong, and all must be heard. The process must be inclusive, and it should spell, fellow Kenyans, an end of ethnic majoritarianism, and I believe an end to the winner-take-all politics. Fellow Kenyans, we are on a path, I believe, to end the cycle of election crises, and that is the only way we can win our battle of economic prosperity. And I want to assure all Kenyans, for me, I am not against any single person, but I am for 47 million Kenyans to take the next step forward.
glad that you can find time to join us today on another edition of Good Morning Africa, where we get to take you through the news-making headlines across Kenya. And later on top of the hour, we will have Diaspora Dispatches, where we shall be looking at other news that are making headlines across Africa. Thank you so much for finding time, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and Dr. Matanga will be joining us a little bit later. And as we wait for him, I'll just take us through the news-making headlines in the local newspapers this morning, and then we shall look at, what else is happening in Kenya today in regards to the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the obstacles? What are some of the mistakes? And what are some of the things that probably the president can do differently, that could help him realize the Big Four agenda and also to secure his legacy. So thank you so much. So first, I will take us through the Standard newspaper this morning, and on the front page is there the political bulldozer, that is on the headline, and we have the picture of Mr. Raila Odinga, who is the opposition leader and now was a sworn enemy. I don't know if in politics there's really a sworn enemy. I think it's just interest, but at one point in time, he could not see eye to eye with President Uhuru Kenyatta after a very tumultuous time that the country went through, disputed elections. Finally, they were able to put their differences aside and decided, you know what, let's do what's best for this country. Let's bring our people together, and let's not be divided under the fractions of things that only work to make Kenya unbearable. So since we're all here in this country together, and this is the country that we have, and we have to, tolerate each other and appreciate each other and live together, then perhaps we might find a working formula. And so for not just for them as political leaders in this country, but also through BBI, they decided this will be a way that will unite Kenyans and perhaps encourage cohesion in this country. So on the front pages there of the Standard newspaper, they're calling him the political bulldozer. And who's next? They ask the question. No politician has taken more names to the graveyard of political parties in the last 3 decades than Raila Odinga. Today, Jubilee is facing possible death thanks to his maneuvers. And that story is on page 2 and 3. And our late president, Moi, might know this way too well because also, at one point, Kanu nearly came to its deathbed, but Kanu still is there, not as strong as it used to be. And so the story is quite interesting. If you want to get the details of it, go to page 2 and 3 of the Standard newspaper. And also still on the front page is there how rogue varsity students stole millions from NHIF, and the quest for affordable public health care is being derailed by cartels crippling the state health insurer with fake claims. And so that is the story. I don't know, on page on the Financial Standard, I think it's a pullout today. Yes, it's a pullout, and we see on the page 4 of the Financial Standard and how you see the story there, and it's very interesting. And any Kenyan who relies on this NHIF, or who pays for the NHIF, this is something that you might want to just go read for yourself and really understand what is really happening in this NHIF that Kenyans remit a lot of money to every month. It is we make monthly contribution, and the least is about $5 per person per family there for to help President Uhuru Kenyatta achieve his affordable health care and to ensure that more Kenyans can access quality health care. But when it comes to NHIF, and sometimes the institutions that partner with the NHIF, Kenyans are not getting a good deal out of that, as sometimes you go to the hospital and you're not, you'll either see the doctor, but the medication that you want that can be paid through NHIF might be too expensive, or it's not covered. So you might leave with a prescription of very expensive medication. So I think they should formulate ways in which Kenyans can fully, benefit from this service, because what is the use of me going to a doctor? I'm given a prescription, then my cover cannot cover for the medication that I'm supposed to receive. That is just a treatment halfway. And the reason why I took NHIF is because when I go to the hospital, I want a comprehensive health care. I want to go there, see a doctor, given a prescription, go to the pharmacy in the same institution, get my medication and go home. And not just my medication, can I say, good medication, because a lot of times what is really served through the NHIF, sometimes generics, or just medicine that is of, low quality, because, good medicine is expensive across the world. So NHIF really covers for, the basics. And so perhaps these are things that even the government and President Uhuru Kenyatta's government should really look into and see, is it just how many Kenyans have the NHIF card, or is it how many Kenyans are able to access health services with this card, or is it about what quality of health services do Kenyans receive when they go to these institutions and are hoping to get the services using this card? And a lot of civil servants use this. Forget the politicians and the CEOs that work in public parastatals. Other Kenyans are public in the public offices, the public servants, the teachers, and all of them. All public servants rely on this very important cover. So it covers a huge number of Kenyans. And also, Kenyans have been, encouraged to get this even on their private, for those who are self-employed, for those who, Kenyans have been encouraged. You've seen Kenyans going out and getting this NHIF. And so it has been, I think, perhaps it was not well thought through. So perhaps going back to the drawing board and outside of these scandals that, like this one, I just read there about the money that is being lost through, let me just read that even as we talk about this, because health is very important. It is the four pillars, one of the four pillars of the Big Four agenda, so it has to be gotten right. So here it says how NHIF has lost billions to fake facilities and cartels. Now, along Moi Drive in Nairobi, Sumoja Estate stands a 7-story building that houses a modest medical clinic on the ground floor. Now, opposite the building is a garage. It is the kind of setting you would find in any of the capital cities' populous estates. But this particular health facility, unlike its peers, possesses a unique characteristic. The clinic has 531 registered clients from a government agency, earning it close to 6 million every 3 months. In the last 3 years, this rather special facility in Umoja has earned 63 million from the National Hospital Insurance Fund. The facility has now drawn the attention of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the internal auditors commissioned by the NHIF board, who doubt its capacity to warrant such huge payments from the institution tasked with providing public health insurance. Documents at the state agency curiously show that all its employees, irrespective of where they live, choose this clinic as their outpatient facility. That is very interesting. Despite of, because you're supposed to choose a medical, a hospital or facility that is closer to where you are, either where you stay or where you work. But apparently, from what now we see here, documents at the state agency curiously show that all its employees of this hospital, irrespective of where they live, choose this clinic as the outpatient facility. It has no branch outside of Nairobi. Investigations are underway to establish how Bridges Medical Center raked in more than 63 million Kenya shillings in capitalization fees between mid-2016 November to November 2019 from NHIF. So you see, this is, I don't want to say a gift that keeps on giving, because this is not gift to Kenyans at all. Instead, if the money that Kenyans are remitting, and it's lost in these dubious ways, and Kenyans go to those hospitals and they do not even get proper health services, and you see a hospital is taking advantage of that and is raking in a lot of money that it shouldn't be, and it does not even have the capacity to see that many outpatients or patients for that matter. And then you see how now from the investigations people are coerced, I think, in government agency who do not even live. Umoja is an estate somewhere outside of the CBD of Nairobi, and so in the eastern part of Nairobi. And so according to this report here, it doesn't matter whether you live in the other side of Nairobi, south, north, whatever, but if you belong to a certain government agency, you're forced to register to that hospital as your nearest health provider if you have the NHIF card, which is very suspicious. So that might, explain why this hospital has received so much money in the last 3 years. That audit was done there, despite the fact that it does not have the capacity to provide the levels of health care that will amount to that much money. So I'm happy that the DCI is on it. I remember last year, time like this, we are also grappling and dealing with another scandal that broke out at the National Hospital Insurance Fund. This is something that has to be gotten right, because these are Kenyans' life which are at stake here. So this is no mean report. This is not, because there are people who rely on this card. This is the only hope they have, and they work very hard. And some people in this country, even sacrificing, giving that $5 a month is a sacrifice. And then somebody just takes the money and decides, and squanders it, or, is misappropriated, or is overpaid. This is not right. And this is something that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government under the Ministry of Health has to look at, because this is something that is supposed to ensure Kenyans don't miss out. You don't have to die anymore from malaria. Of course, treating malaria is free, but you don't have to die or suffer. Kenyans don't have to suffer from illnesses that they can access a hospital and get treated because of lack of money. So some Kenyans really $5 per month a month is a huge sacrifice for them, to give hope, in the hopes that when they need the services, they will get it. And then you come in and read such stories. So what I'm saying is President Uhuru Kenyatta and under the Ministry of Health there, and Cecily, what's her name? I've forgotten her name, the CS. This is happening. I don't know if the CS is... I don't know if the CS Cecily Karaoke. Let me just see. I've seen her name here, and let me just read a line from this report. It is on the Financial Standard here on the Standard newspaper on page 4. It is a pullout. Today being a Tuesday, they usually have the Financial Standard pullout. So it says, in a past interview with the Financial Standard, outgoing Health Cabinet Secretary Cecily Karaoke said one of the challenges NHIF faces is easy come, easy go money. This has further been exacerbated by years of mismanagement of the fund, as well as undue influence from cartels, including politicians and private insurance companies who want a piece of the pie. So we cannot play with this, because those people who are coming in here, the politicians who are coming into influence here, these cartels, they can afford comprehensive corporate health covers. They don't even use the NHIF card, honestly. So they can afford even paying for better health services in the top hospitals we have in this country. So they're coming in to an institution that basically serves a lot of Kenyans who might not have the privilege or the money to go to a better hospital or to have another corporate health cover, and they're coming in here trying to mess up this thing. This answer here that was given by outgoing Health Cabinet Secretary Cecily Karaoke is not satisfactory at all. And she has been here, and the scandal broke out last year while she was the CS for Health. I don't know what she did. I don't know what the Ministry of Health has been doing. I don't know what measures has been taken, the loopholes, if the ones that it makes easy for NHIF for people to run their fraudulent claims here. I don't know what actions the Ministry of Health has taken in regards to this matter, because it's not a new thing, it's not a new news. This is something that has been happening. The scandal broke out last year. We saw a mayor clerk who was working at the NHIF. After investigations, this person was found to be owning about 8 townhouses, each worth about 35 million Kenya shillings, and around $350,000 each. Townhouses out in the outskirts here, outside of Nairobi. And also, we learned that this person could take a chopper from his office to the house if the traffic was too much and he did not feel like he needed to deal with that, because he had the money and he was a mayor clerk working here, and of course the top managers at the NHIF. So that scandal broke. It is still a case in the courts in Kenya here, but I didn't see the Ministry of Health really take stringent actions and really perhaps go back to the drawing board and see how best can this NHIF scheme serve Kenyans. How can we make sure theft is curtailed? And they cannot contain it 100%, but at least something needs to be done. And these cartels, these politicians who are said to be influenced, to have a huge influence, because a lot of them even own these hospitals, private hospitals, so they will insist. And now you can see, even just reading this report, over that hospital that is located outside of another estate in the eastern part of Nairobi, but you're forced to choose it. If you're working in certain institutions, you're forced to choose it regardless of your proximity to that institution, because you're supposed to choose a hospital through the NHIF card. You're supposed to choose a hospital that will be that they will put in the files that you're likely to visit should you be sick or your family be sick, that is close and is accessible to you. But what we've seen from here is you're forced to choose. And so these are things, because maybe it's owned by the cartels, or it's owned by some of the politicians. So a lot of influence that is really working to defeat, one of the very key pillars of the Big Four agenda, and that is the universal cover. NHIF is very important when it comes to the universal health cover, because it enables Kenyans who otherwise could not access proper treatment to be able to access this. So what we need is also an improvement of the services. If you are attending a hospital and you're using NHIF to seek for your treatment and to get your medication, that could be possible, except when you read such stories and the loopholes and the manner in which even the hospitals are colluding with insurers and are colluding with the managers there at the NHIF, and they are defrauding Kenyans, and they're putting forward fraudulent claims, and they're benefiting at the expense of the Kenyans who are set to benefit from this. I think it's very unfortunate, and I think that this is something that President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think you should really look at this, and the Ministry of Health should take this matter very seriously, because Kenyans are the ones who are losing, and this will defeat one of the agendas of President Uhuru Kenyatta, which is the universal healthcare. So I'll take a very short break, and then when I come back, I think I will be joined by Dr. Matanga. So please don't go too far. Good morning, Africa. We'll be right back.
From 1992 in Kenya, elections have always been divisive in the form of violence, in the form of malpractices, in the form of all types of gerrymandering that has led to chaos that we have seen that has engulfed this country since independence. The biggest obstacle of the Kenyan elections is a very simple way out. The obstacle is we have never changed the forest. We have changed monkeys in the forest. If you want to cure the Kenya elections, you get a cure, a permanent cure for the Kenya elections. Change the forest. The monkeys will not come to that new forest. Reforms have been done around the Kenyan elections. Rules, regulations, laws. Are these laws enforced anyway? The answer is no. Most of the people break it, go with it, create chaos after they have not been punished. So the basis of the BBI is to interrogate the chapter, the seriousness of why elections produce violence every 5 years. Why do people fight? Yes, someone would say they are linked with tribal cocoons that conduct themselves or take part in the elections. The answer could be clearer, nearer there. But the solution, therefore, to safeguard, even if it is tribal, South Africa has got the biggest tribe, the Zulu. But still there are safeguards in South Africa that have safeguarded an election. That the Zulus don't dominate the entire South Africa because the electoral systems are safeguarded by principles and institutions. The institution of elections in Kenya and in many African countries has always been the product and has always been an institution that produces violence. Everywhere on the continent, you see electoral commissioners confused in reading their election results. Some of them don't even know the results. Some of them don't know how many votes were garnered by both parties. To avoid this mess, Kenya needs to look completely and put emphasis on the electoral reforms that are needed so that in 2022 there is no violence in the elections that will be conducted. For this reason, therefore, I would urge the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Chebukati, to say bye-bye, because he has held several controversial elections that we have seen, including under his auspices, one election nullified in the history of Africa. Thank you very much, viewers.
Our destination, ladies and gentlemen, is to tackle the housing challenge, and this was inspired by the reality of our nation, Kenya, today. Based on recent census, our population now stands at 47 million people, of whom today 10 million are urban dwellers. And over 90% of town dwellers today live in rented houses, with approximately 65% of those living in informal settlements. Today we are here as a first step to launch one of our strategic partners projects, which when completed will deliver 8,888 units. And I'm informed that Habitat Heights is the first of many housing projects that the United Nations Office of Project Services and their partners plan to undertake in our country. Indeed, UNOPS is working with Housing Finance to manage and avail low-cost mortgages for our people. Moreover, first-time house owners will be exempt of stamp duty under the Affordable Housing Scheme, in addition to enjoying the doubling of the Home Ownership Saving Plan. We have also waived NEMA and National Construction Authority fees on constructions, and we are seeking various counties to follow suit by waiving their county government development fees in order once again to further reduce the cost to ordinary mwananchi.
I gave a promise to the country that we were going to clear backlogs, which are in cases which are more than 5 years old. We had plans to continue tackling those cases of 5 years and above as we deal with the current ones. Then the budget cuts comes and we are ground to a halt.
I appreciate what CJ is saying. Yes, you need more money. But CJ, your courts are the same ones. When we propose certain tax measures, you are the first ones to say injunction. Hiyo isikuja. Sasa pesa hii itatoka wapi? Where will it come from? Hapana, that one, oh, hiyo unconstitutional, hiyo itakuja review siku hiyo na hiyo. Alafu the same mouth nataka pesa. I ask myself, why is it that 99% of these cases are filed by one person? And you, as munampatia same day, hata hamgojei atimwambia kuja next week. Same day, chukua hii, funga hiyo, nafunga hiyo, nafunga hii, nafunga hii, nafunga hii.
I will be very honest and say, this is not about the judiciary. It is about a clique of judicial officers who have gotten into an unholy relationship with a clique of activist lawyers and oppositionist civil society people, with the intention of humiliating the government, stalling the government, embarrassing the government, and making it impossible for the government to perform. Our judiciary has got some of the finest people in the country. There is a clique in the judiciary that has been captured by a group of people in civil society and a clique of activist lawyers. And they are riding roughshod. Have you wondered, members of parliament, because you have the burden of leadership, have you wondered, in the last 3 years, one civil society activist in Kenya has obtained nearly 30 court orders, ex parte, 30 court orders, ex parte, from the court. He walks in, he gets an order, comes out. He walks in, he gets an order, comes out. In fact, he could even walk in today and say he wants an order so that all cabinet secretaries commit suicide. You'll get the order. He walks in, gets an order, comes out. What does that say about our judicial system?
I think it is a shame on our country that we prosecuted a case against drug traffickers in our country and we couldn't get a prosecution. And within a year of them being arraigned in the United States, they have been jailed for no less than 25 years. That is something that our judiciary should come to terms with. We all have a responsibility to make this country better. We all have a responsibility to make this country more efficient. We all have a responsibility to make this country more prosperous. We all have a responsibility to make this country fairer.
All right, thank you so much. You're still with Good Morning Africa, and we took a short break, and right now I'm joined by my co-host who was away but now is back, and we're happy to have him today on the show, Dr. David Matsanga. Dr. Karibu.
Asante sana. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, wherever you are watching from. This is Punchline Africa Television, the only television in Africa that brings you good morning perspectives of Africa. How Africa has been affected by the current trends in the world. How do we defend our continent? How do we look at the continent with a different perspective? This is Punchline Africa Television. Many televisions can spring in the world, in Kenya and Africa. But what is the aim of springing up a television without educating Africa on the roles that Africa can play in making sure that Africans and the lives of the citizens of the continent is upgraded? That is what we do. That is what is our role. That is how we have done it. And we continue to do it wherever you are. We fight against conflicts. We speak against conflicts. We talk about empowerment of the youth, the women, the younger generation, the elderly. Those we talk about the big four in Kenya, the agenda for President Uhuru Kenyatta, the legacy, the unity of purpose, the redemption, the healing. That's what we do. A television that does not talk about that is not worth a television at all for Africans. We should all start doing our own things, not to copy and paste. Let's not look at international programs in Europe, in UK, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Brussels, thinking that those programs help us. They don't help us. Those people have got a social contract with them. Yesterday, I saw one woman crying outside the court. But when she was supplying money, illicit trade, corruption, she wasn't crying. Why was she crying yesterday? Is because she has been caught taking, fleecing NYS. She's telling us about her child not going to school. How many of the children of the people of Kenya have not gone to school because she stole the money? Why can't she pay the price of stealing this money? Viewers, there you are. That is me, and I'm back.
Indeed, and it's very interesting, Doctor, that you brought up that clip that really was trending yesterday here in Kenya. And I think what really caught the attention of Kenyans is not the fact that her child was not going to school, but the fact that her child now could not speak German. And because the child now just speaks Kiswahili, and which is our national language that we are very, very proud of. So apparently, if you speak a national language, the Kiswahili, so she said now the child is beginning to be a chokora because he can no longer go to the expensive school that he was being taught German, and he's forgotten. I don't know if he's forgotten his German, and so now he sounds like a chokora, which is really I don't know. Just perhaps maybe she was just overcame with emotions, but that is not how you get sympathy from Kenyans. You're already undergoing through a court process. You're charged with stealing public money, and you're still coming here and trying to walk around with your nose up in the air. It doesn't work like that.
First of all, one of our viewers has explained what chokora means in German, and I think I will send it to the production team. What chokora means? This woman was saying the child has become chokora
because they don't speak German.
Yes, but how many children did she make to become chokoras after stealing the money?
Lord.
Time has come for Kenyans to ask questions. This question of keeping quiet and allowing things to go the way they are must end. That's why we are going into part 2 of violence. Because people are not talking the truth. People are not telling other people facts. Tell Olekima or Ladama, wherever he is, tell him off that don't touch the microphone. Tell Ndindi Nyoro. Tell Moses Kuria. Tell them, switch off the microphone. These are the people. That's action. Let's be action-oriented institutions. If you are insulting the president in front of me, I'll either walk away. If I don't have the powers to stop you, I will not listen to you. Because the head of state is the head of state. But you go to a church and you watch, you sit, the reverends are laughing. The bishops are laughing. Someone goes to church to lambast the president of the Republic of Kenya in front of a deputy president who is watching.
So wrong should be.
No. These are younger people. They are causing a lot of problems. At least I'm older than them. I will say it with my mind. What will you do? What will you do? What? Will you change my... The only thing is to kill me, maybe. But time has come for us to tell you. If you are insulting the president, why do you insult the president in my presence? For me, David Matanga, I don't want you to insult my president. Uhuru, when I'm hearing. The best I walk away. Because I'm not a violent man. But if you're insulting a president and the deputy is watching, he's there smiling. And while they're insulting the president, What type of what is this? Muache. What type of life is this? You are coming in a church and the bishops are laughing, opening their mouth because they have been given stolen money. To were churchgoers. You think God kept you alone? Some people in Kenya think God keep them alone, and they are the only one God listens to. Time has come. Put this pressure. You are Kenyan. You can't insult your president whom you selected. The best, if you don't want him, tell him to go away. But you cannot carry MPs in helicopters to go and sit somewhere and lambast the president, insult the president in your presence. And then now, another lumpen springs up. Raila na wewe, chunga hapa. Raila should have switched off that microphone in Narok. Hala. Mr. Raila, you are an elder. You are an elder. And I'm not sparing anybody now. That's how I'm going to be doing it. Because they are hijacking BBI. They are leaving the president isolated. Dr. Raila Amolo Odinga, you are an elder. If you see someone talking nonsense, stand up, take off the microphone. Because it doesn't help you. It annoys us who fly to Hague. Some of these guys were even insulting me on TV because I was going to the Hague to defend Uhuru and Ruto. Haki ya Mungu. Time has come to tell the truth about this. If you are a leader and you see something being talked in a wrong direction, stop the microphone. Stop it. Tell the master of ceremony to ashame some people. You see, if you do that, the Kenyans are going to applaud you. You tell him, Ndindi Nyoro, we did not come here to insult President Uhuru Kenyatta. Ichungwa, Imani Ichungwa, you did not come here to brief your George Soros money in this microphone. After all, Imani Ichungwa is only George Soros. What has he done? He's a George Soros surrogate. An orphan of George Soros. He relies on George Soros' money. Let him say no and I produce the documents. I speak with facts. Mwachane. Wacha.
Very interesting, Doctor, that you brought that. But I think also the words that Mr. Olekina spoke that really got him into a lot of trouble. Remember during that show on JKL Live last Wednesday, that is really where he started his problem. So I think he should not have been allowed to speak in a row.
Miriam, for you, I was away. I was in Netherlands and London and Brussels. I watched on Wednesday night. My flight left here when I had seen what this guy was saying. I wish I were here. I would have answered him the following morning. But I want now to say the truth on this television. If you want to kill me, kill me. I'm 65 years old. My children have grown. They will also mourn me. But I want to say the truth here. If Raila is watching a rally and somebody speaking something wrong, the former prime minister is an elder, should stand up. He's the one who brought the BBI. Stand up, switch off the microphone, and tell this man that is not what we want. People will applaud you. The deputy president equally. If you see somebody going, if we don't advise these people, it seems they don't have advisors. That's why you see stupid lumpenis like a chaser end up meeting in their places without them knowing. The deputy president also, when you see someone standing up to insult your boss, switch off the microphone and tell them, no, we came here to pray to God. We did not come here to talk about the president. You are not curtailing their freedom. No. You are only seeing courtesy. Give the president the symbol of respect. Allah, Jamen, Allah. I don't speak like Atwoli because I went to school. Atwoli might not have seen bigger schools, but he has knowledge. Mimi yangu, I speak the truth. If you hate me, I'll go. I'll go, haki ya Mungu itaenda. Lakini mtanitaka siku moja. Nawaambia haki leo. Mnapigana, mnataka kuanza kupigana sasa. Wakenya wanaanza kupigana. Mnapigania nini? What are you fighting for? This is your country. There's enough space for everybody. If you are a leader witnessing a rally which is hammering a president or bringing ethnicity, ethnicity is not an identity marker. Read my essay today. Read my essay. Watu wanataka kurudi shuleni. Ethnicity is not identity marker. No. You can't use ethnicity to destabilize, to profile others. Nobody should accept this. And when trouble comes, these guys will be left on their own. Matsanga will be the one running in the cold winters of Netherlands. Even when some people have now forgotten that I even met them. That I met them and told them, this is what I've done. I've lost my credibility because of ICC. I would not be here in this place here. I lost. So I have a right to warn people again not to do these things. Jamen, I'm speaking as an elder. At least I saw school earlier than you people. Hello? I was in a primary school being taught by a Mzungu. Hey. There were Bazungu spread all over all those schools. Even in the villages, Indian teachers teaching mathematics. In my country. So people should not think I did Ogundipe. And Makonde. So I have a right as an elder also to give wisdom. Even if I'm not a Kenyan, I only tell you on the periphery. I can stand on the fence. I have my blog called Writing from the Fence. But this time I see the fence is falling me in. Where people are belittling the president. You have belittled your own president. How will you get there? How?
And Doctor, the point that you brought in is very interesting because sometimes you see according to which political lining, when the other side does something wrong, that is when you come out and castigate them. But the same thing is being done in your own camp and you've not said anything.
Yes.
So wrong should be wrong in both sides.
Yes. If the deputy president sees anybody in his camp, because they have created imaginary camps, it is high time His Excellency, the president, arrested this situation. Get the BBI up to working ethos. It is supporting ethos, and if it destroys ethos, we are dead. One of the pillars of BBI is ethos. We don't have ethos.
And the other one is unity and cohesion.
Unity and the purpose. Now, if we are going to destroy the same unity that we are saying we are building, then what is it? What is it?
But also, I think there's some now politicians who are running with that mistake and that very unnecessary comments that Olekina made. But let's not forget, BBA has had its rallies before, several others before. We've not seen such a thing come out. So this was the first time we saw such unwarranted sentiments coming out, which I hope that the BBA committee or the people who are spearheading this process have learned. And next time before somebody comes in to speak, can you please vet and agree with them that what is it that they're going to talk about, and can it be under the 9 points that really are the core of this BBI? And so this was the first time, and it has been condemned with Kenyans and even some leaders in equal measure. But it should also not now be what is really now being glorified, and forget that BBI actually the rallies have been able to achieve some things, and we've had the BBI have had previous rallies, but that we did not see such chaos before. So this should be a very good lesson, or a very important lesson for this team moving forward.
Thank you very much, Miriam. I agree with you. It is not only one side. Both sides. His Excellency Dr. Raila Amolo Odinga, you are the founder of BBI. My dear elder brother, when you see somebody speaking something that is going to divide the Kenyans, cut him off. Equally, His Excellency Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, if you see someone insulting the president, especially these boys that are used to pay here 5,000 shillings per day to do a show, like Ndindi Nyoro, and this Moses Kuria, whom I was buying lunch every day. Now they have reached in parliament, they are insulting the president. Stop them. Don't allow them. Let them say I did not buy them lunch. Sema. Moses Kuria anaandika every day. Baba, andika kwangu. Andika anza tuone. It's like Miguna. Wapi, yeah. Why is it Miguna cannot write me? Write. Miguna, try. Try. And you'll see. I have a package, special English, which Miguna read later. I read much earlier. Yes, wajaribu. This Ndindi Nyoro was my boy here in my studio. Namlipa 5,000 kufanya analysis. Now you are insulting a president. Kwa nini? Jamen, in front of a deputy. That because when you talk more, the deputy will be happy. The deputy can even love you more than... Some people think Ruto does not love me. Has he told you that he doesn't love Matanga? You are the people screaming your stupid headlines. How can you hate a man who went to tell you the truth that these cases are fake? The people who are talking to you, Mr. Deputy President, are the same people who wanted you fixed. Hallelujah. Sikiliza hiyo. Reggae. Where reverse reggae ataona. Sindia anasema stop reggae. Stop Murkomen. Stop Sanga. Hawa ndio watu walikuwa wanataka kuua wewe. They are the people who wrote statements against you. Those two, and I have their statements. Kama mnasema namna hivi, na mwaga, itamwaga nje. Ita-publish kwa papers. Mimi, you don't joke with me. Wacha Murkomen aseme nga, ninataleta. Unaona Murkomen anaanza mimi. And she fears. These are the people who wrote statements to fix Ruto. They are in black and white. There is another one on this other side of ours. The side of the president. Huyo, karibu na mumulika. Tembea hapa that what? They wrote statements to finish their friends. Sasa leo, ndi hao wanakura. When I was going there, they were insulting me. They were saying this hippo, this elephant, this big man, this fat man. These were the guys eating with NGOs, fixing the president and the deputy. Sasa leo wanataka kuwaletea tena shida, warudi huko. Some of them cannot even travel anywhere. They can only travel near their village river. Wajue hata mtu huko. Muache. Sisi are the people who have suffered. I have suffered my international name. You think to go and do an interview amongst Bazungu, 40,000 Wazungu, and you defeat Wazungu, and you are given a job. It's simple. It's not simple. when you have not, English is not your language. But I did it. I lost my job for defending Kenya in the ICC. I have no regrets. If you have regrets, go and hang on a transformer. Don't regret with me. But I stood firm and I will stand firm. And I'm now saying the truth. If this happens, if His Excellency, the Deputy President, is going in a church and these bishops open their mouths, has God ever told you that the bishops are the only ones going to the where? These bishops, you think God would have not killed the rest of us? Then the bishops laugh and clap when they hear Moses Kuria lambasting the president. What is the difference between Moses Kuria's talk and the Kina? It is almost the same. Moses replied the same way. Ndindi Nyoro replied the same way. Have you seen that? This has to stop. The president must arrest the BBI train. It has been hijacked by political process instead of a healing process. I told Riaka Macha, am I not a happy man? Give me 5. You know why I'm talking like this? Anybody can say, what? Reggae, stop me under UC. So stop me now. He's there. Now stop me. He's there. He is there. Stop me. One day I will have a nation. You think I will not have a nation? Stop me now. Yes. I struggled for him to return. I will have a nation one day. I'll have a nation one day. Doesn't mean that you love me all the time. One day, I'll have a nation. Mark the lips. Because I speak the truth. Medium, I'm telling you, I'm happy. Because all my things that I say come true. If there is not anything I've said which has misled Kenya, tell me. Tell me. Something is going to happen between now and the 2 weeks to come. I'm going to tell you why. And it is going to be very nice for Kenya. Yes. We work, we help. This Kenya, if you fail Kenya, you have failed the whole Africa. Because it is the only country in Africa that smiles. The rest don't smile. Today I've told you, this is the only country in Africa that smiles. That's why some of us are locked here. Kenya smiles everywhere. Kenya in Africa smiles. The rest of the countries don't smile. Look at Amazonia. Look at Nigeria. Look at Central African Republic. Look at South Sudan. Look at my Uganda until 11 years ago. We were not smiling. Sorry. Until Matanga came in, we are now smiling. Not Museveni. It is this mouth. Had I not dared to go and tell Konyi, enough is enough. No more fight. We either do it or you kill me, or you kill us, we shall perish. But we have to have peace. Isn't Uganda smiling? Not a gun. You can die of anger. You can die of poverty. Was I to create you money? No. Is Uganda a communist state? No. Work hard. It's not my problem. It is up to Ugandans. Look at Burundi. Is it smiling? Kenya is the only island of peace that smiles. And the people should get that in their minds today. And keep that island smiling. Not this thing of telling us we are not what, we are not. This, you see this, there is a habit here where people who go, we are Kenya, do you speak as who? You speak, that thing grows up. It has now grown into these social media zygotes and the imbeciles who go on littering the Facebook You know, a man who has just seen a toilet that flashes water can misuse it. When the other water has not gone, you go on flashing more. It is what some of the social media pundits do. I don't do it. My account has never been blocked because I insult people. I give people what they should do. And I have never insulted anybody. I only tell you in intellectual terms, then if you can match my intellectualism, we discuss. Less than that, I block you. So the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta, Miriam, must be kept in the sense that if we don't help him, he cannot achieve anything more than he can.
Yes.
Whatever people are saying, don't worry. Alan Kebut, Matanga needs to be a bishop. I can never be I was to be a bishop. Alan, don't worry. And this man said, Uganda, I started. Hasn't he been listening to what I've said? It is me who silenced the guns in Uganda. And I don't want to stay in the seat. I leave some other people to do it. I don't want to be like a Besigye who has failed to win election 6 times and he wants the 7th time. I don't want to be like a Bob Wine who used to write music in favor of the same man. Now he has come back to say, we are now removing you. What do you think the man thinks about you? Go and ask Museveni. He will never say Matanga has never agreed with me in life. The only thing he has agreed with me is the peace process of northern Uganda. The rest, we walk like a trouser and a coat, all separated by the body. I don't want to use the other word.
Yes, indeed. And Doctor, there's a scandal that broke up last year, and I think we talked about it so much in the Ministry of Agriculture when CS Kinjuri was the CS then. Now he has been replaced. Now we see that according to the Star newspaper, no papers to back the 1.6 billion Kenya shillings spent on maize imports, says the PS, and he continues to say there are no documents for the 1.6 billion Kenya shillings of the Ministry of Agriculture spent to import maize. MPs had on Monday the PS Hamadi Boga could only account for 2.4 million out of the 2.4 billion out of the 4.4 billion the government spent on grains and importation to mitigate the deficit in 2017. Boga, who was before the Public Accounts Committee, said the other documents could not be found, and so should Mr. Kinjuri be called to this, and perhaps he should shed some light in this, because this happened while he was the CS for Agriculture.
Kinjuri, I told you, the story of documents missing in the Ministry of Agriculture does not shock you. It's just like the story of fake arms when they were real. Someone to sit down and think of importing 39 billion
Kenya shillings worth
must have an aim in his head. And a psychologist will tell you he had an idea. Even economen have ideas.
Not only to steal.
Yes, not only to steal,
That was not the
but
motive.
to actualize this dream.
To bring in at least part of...
So the 1.6 million billion shillings maize scandal was well schemed. That's why every thief falls to the place where thieves have got a training school.
Leadership Institute.
Leadership Institute of Corruption. There is an in-government here of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's government. They are leaders of who own the Leadership Institute of Corruption. They teach people and they remain in the background. They pretend to say, I am innocent. I am very innocent. This maize scandal can teach you a lot. Walai, it teaches you a lot. How the money was stolen. But I want to thank people. And I want to thank the asset. And I want to thank Justice Mumbi. Mama, you have given us a signal. I want to read for you something what Justice Mumbi has done just this morning. Wagwan, this lady. A couple in narcotics ring to lose shillings 1 billion Muthaiga plots and cash. As much as people are talking about the government not working, Uhuru has fought corruption. Justice Mumbi Ngungi yesterday said the Assets Recovery Agency proved that the assets belonging to Joseph Wanjohi and Jenny Wambui were proceeds of crime. There is this Jenny Wambui whose hair does not grow. That's the one. That is the one.
Maybe she likes it.
That is the one. Thank you. And that Jenny Wambui, always on the flights. You find her, I am also in the Hague. What are you doing in Hague? You find her in Mombasa. Not Mombasa. That I'm going to Lusaka. I have hotels in Lusaka. Walai! Asante. Thank you for that. The two were arrested at the Muthaiga home on October 16th, 2009 with 1,274 grams of heroin and were charged with trafficking in narcotic drugs at Kibera Court. I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody. The Muthoni, the director of Recovery Agency, the money and the money laundering. Thank you. The judge yesterday said, "Alai, your property apana yenyu. You used the money." And that same Jenny Mumbi has continued to be the most lethal, corrupt lady in an academy of someone. The headmaster, there is a headmaster of corruption academy here. No longer call him the chief priest. Call him the headmaster of an academy. Like Wafula. Kenny Wafula, who used to have the academy, the headmaster of Witness Academy, who used to sell witnesses to ICC. The highest bidder, highest taker. There is a master of school of corruption in Kenya. Whether you hide it, the sun does not hide. One day,
everything will come to the light.
It's coming.
Yes.
It's coming. This one came too close. The arms cash came too close. I tell you, Miriam, it was too close to call. And it hasn't unraveled yet.
Yes, sir.
When we are talking about this woman who sends a message to a judge that bring me strippers, what are they called?
What is that?
The lady, Sarah Cohen.
Oh.
She has written on her Facebook that she was taking strippers. What are they called? I don't know. I came from a Rongo village.
Is it strepsils or what?
Yeah, strepsils.
The lozenges.
That Judge Oleketai had lost voice. Why were you not saying you are taking kiss?
Is she an
was
official of the court?
Yeah, she became a full doctor.
An official of the court.
Yes, an official of the court.
Or a night nurse. Which one?
Or the bodyguard.
Maybe a night.
Hey!
Leave that alone.
What? Many things happen in Kenya, Miriam, which some of us
So some
don't.
judges are actually doing very well, and others are just continuing with
Justice
the vote.
Mumbi is doing well, while this other woman is carrying.
I really like her, Justice.
Yes, carrying medicines for flu. Instead of saying she was going for a full body massage, that includes uncoordinated activities. Anyway, you cannot fail. She's very beautiful, so you cannot be. You don't blame all the Katai. Man has unity, and the unity has got errors.
That is when we just take a break and come back. Unit has errors.
Thank you very much. I want to thank, Miriam has started laughing again. I want to thank Madame Mudhoni of Asset Recovery. I want to thank Judge Mumbi for making behind all this bad news that the Kenyan television and other television stations don't report. There is a fight which Uhuru Kenyatta has succeeded.
And he must win.
Mzee, hands, cheers. Tunakupatia hii. Usijali bwana. Uko na wazalendo wengi. Usibabaishwe. Wacha tupigane na ufisadi, tutamaliza. Sisi wengine tulikuwa msasani makati ya 78. Tunajua mwalimu alikuwa anatuambia msiwache Afrika, mkae kwa Afrika. I was very happy yesterday when my friend PLO Lumumba met President Magufuli. I will bring the pictures for you.
Oh, he did?
Oh, yes. We are on the rise. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, PLO. Matanga PLO, we are on the rise. We are very many. Soon, don't think of us here. We are going to rise on Africa. We are going back to our system of Pan-Africanism. We shall rise and shine again. There's nobody going to threaten Uhuru Kenyatta when we are seeing. PLO, well done. President Magufuli, well done. We shall set bases. You refuse us a base here, we set a base there. You refuse here, we set one there. We have earmarked 6-7 countries. Now Sudan is gone, is back to us. Well done, Riek Machar. Well done, Salva Kiir. We shall work together with you to make Pan-Africanism strong. We shall help Uhuru Kenyatta to win the battle against corruption. He has done something. Some people now in offices fear even to touch the paper of tender. 2 civil servants I traveled with on Wednesday evening towards Amsterdam. They told me, hey, anything to do with tender in our ministry, we don't want to hear. They were talking there around in the business class. You know, I don't travel these local things. Yeah, you have, please. I am from, part of my life is from the Lake region.
So you are an honorary Lakean.
Lake, yes. Not honorary, even the name.
Oluopian.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you see the features? The features are in me.
All right, nice to have you back.
Even in my choice of shirts, I choose like from the lake. So thank you very much. These civil servants, on a serious note, they were talking in the business class. They're Kenyans, I don't want to say their names. They said, mambo ya tenda sasa Kenya imekuwa moto. President Uhuru Kenyatta, that is it. That's very good. You have done very well. You should give Kenyatta a credit. Give President Kenyatta a credit. Give him a credit. He has done, he has struggled. Given that corruption is invisible. Very invisible. Given that the headmaster of corruption or headmasters can be with you. And they pretend to love you when they are actually trying to mock you. Kenyatta has done very well. Asset recovery, kudos. 1 billion worth of property in Muthaiga was got. Is that not news? Why is the national television telling us soap opera from Mexico?
That is very good news to the Kenyan taxpayer. So hopefully this money will be channeled to the proper use so that Kenyans can benefit. 1 billion property. And this came from drug trafficking. So as other people's children are dying, you're building a mansion and an empire worth $1 billion plus.
And then they also start catching bags to go to the gym.
Okay.
You know, free money. It gives you free time. Unamuona kwa gym na hawa wanaenda kwa gym. That they are going to the gym. Did I grow going to the gym? I grew up, walked 5 miles. Keep your blood clean. That's all. Gym itatoka. Unatoka ujesh. This body has come because I smell chips. In London, I used to smell chips even if I'm not eating.
You smell and leave it alone. Fish and chips.
Yes, it is well done there. It's one of the best. Wazungu like fish and chips.
It is well done here.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The one here is more complicated.
Depends on where you visit. But I know places where they do it very well.
Yeah, I wish it was practical.
Well, it is practical.
That we were taken there. All of us were invited. But when you go alone and hammer alone. Thank you very much, Punchline Africa Television, all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Miriam, the legacy of President. Let's summarize this legacy. And then we switch on to your topic, which is much anticipated by the public of the Republic of Kenya and
the world.
And the world.
Yes.
Mine is the legacy. This is where I belong. The legacy of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. We shall leave a legacy of unity or purpose. People should not hijack the BBI direction. BBI is healing, reconciliation, accountability, truth-telling, reparation, restitution. Those are the words. If you pick that, and there is something, do you know what? Can I say it now? There is something called constructional amendment of the Constitution.
Constructional.
Amendment, yes.
Is it a continued process, constructional?
You are talking now. I'm a lecturer also. Some people in life think that I don't talk to Bazungu. In fact, Bazungu like me in that one or two lectures. Constructional amendment of the Constitution of Republic of Kenya is what you are engaging yourselves in. Constructional. It means it had already foundation, but you are reconstructing.
You're rebuilding.
Rebuilding
or you're building
the foundation. The Constitution changes things like you don't give bail to thieves who have stolen money like this cocaine.
Then you must
They
recover.
must investigate thoroughly. One of the problems why the DPP is having a problem with the court is that the men, the culprits, are released immediately. And as soon as they are released, where do they go? They come back to disrupt.
And they tamper with the
evidence. And the DPP, by the time he goes there, the case is already weakened. They have even talked to the judges. They have talked to the magistrate quietly.
So the case is compromised.
You know, all these suspects know where the magistrates live. If you track the magistrates' telephones, you will find the discussion 1 or 2. It is not only Olekatai. There are many.
He's just a tip on the iceberg.
Thank you. Let's not condemn that man who might have been very hungry for Adam's goods. Eva and Adam, you know, he might have been hungry. But there are many judges. Yeah. There are many magistrates doing this. Time has come for Kenyans to speak out. How many of these? If we are trying to bring constructional amendment of the Constitution, let's talk about these amendments. Why don't we change the law that if you are caught on a crime of economic type, you must spend some time, give the DPP time to investigate. That time will not infringe your human rights or universal rights. Kenyans have put universal rights thinking they are in America. You are not yet even halfway in America. You are not even a quarter in America. You are not. You are not a quarter in America. You are not halfway in America. You are simply not. So you need to reach that journey. You need to walk that journey. You need to walk that distance. You need to find a solution before you release suspects who come up to damage the DPP. That's why the DPP is losing his cases. Thank you.
All right, and also just moving forward, next time they'll be having the next BBI rally in is it Embu or Meru? In the
29th.
in the Mount Kenya region. I think that the organizers and the conveners of this rally or this meeting should ensure that anybody who will be speaking or participating that they must stick to the 9-point agenda. That is the core of the BBI. When they get out of this, then there's no point having this rally. They must speak. They must stick to the agenda. That is the BBI. Anything else they can do when they're having their own, political rallies. But this is very important. BBI is not a political, bus. They should not bring politics in it. Let them stick to the point so that Kenyans can really understand. Who wants to understand can really understand what this BBI is all about.
Senator Ole Ledema Ole Kina has been arrested. Breaking news. That is it right now. As we speak, it is a matter for the police. Therefore, we shall not make any further comments. It is up to the police to find out what exactly he spoke, but he has been arrested. He's in custody of the Kenyan police. Thank you. Let's take a break. Analyst Miriam, I have made my point. Change the law. For DPP not to start fighting shadows. Change the law. Very good.
All right. So
thank you.
Yes. We shall be back on the other side of the break with Diaspora Dispatches. Don't go too far.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Fellow Africans, I took this petition to the court in order to stop any future usage of falsehood and false documents, procured witnesses of the Waki Commission. I took this petition to the court 4 years ago in order to make sure that the Chief Prosecutor of International Criminal Court does not use this evidence anytime in the future, whether tomorrow or 10 years to come, to refer to this evidence because the evidence was fake. It is with this dismay and with this courage that I took to go to court in Kenya to seek a judicial review and to redeem the credibility of both those accused and the victims of this catastrophe that occurred in Kenya, that I decided to seek to expunge this report from the reports and the statute books of Kenya. It is unfortunate that the 3 judges in Kenya, whom I will name now, Judge Kanyi Kimondo, Judge Aburil, and Judge Onyengo, all of them sat down and gave very silly, flimsy, prudish, sardonic ruling against our petition. I want to tell the Kenyans that I have done my best. I want to be on record that should this thing reappear again, don't call me. Should it reappear again, don't say I never told you. Should the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court use this fake evidence again against Kenyans, don't say I did not tell you. My role was to go and remove these obnoxious toxins from the books of the Republic of Kenya. I therefore want to tell the world that my torrid road, a long road that I've taken in search for this envelope, has ended in Kenya so far. But I want to announce that Kenya is not the only state party in international law. Kenya is not the only state party. I will in future, very soon, detail to you which other state party I'm going to seek this envelope to be expunged and to be made public to the people of the world. I want to thank you all. I want to tell you that a detailed document which is entitled My Long Road, Torrid Road to Work Envelope will be found on www.panafricanforumltd.com. You can read it, you can dissect, you can see the days, the long road, what I took, what I did, referenced, well documented, and may God help you that at one time somebody in Kenya will stand up to say thank you very much.
Good afternoon. It's around 12:30 2 rather here in Nairobi. So it is a very good afternoon. Good morning if you're watching us from other parts of Africa that are not in East Africa, or if you're watching us from Europe, it's still morning there, I believe. Thank you so much for staying with us on the first hour and a half. We were on Good Morning Africa, and of course Dr. Matanga was away, and so we had a lot to talk about in regards to the local news that has been happening in this country, even as we looked at the newspapers and the headlines, and of course the trending story that still is on the front pages of the Kenya's newspapers. That is the BBI report, but we are done with that. So now we want to talk about Africa and other stories and other things that are of interest to the rest of Africans, wherever you are and wherever you're watching us from. So thank you so much for joining me. This now is Diaspora Dispatches. So what I normally do for our viewers who perhaps are tuning in for the first time, I'll take us through some news items from different African countries, and then we should come back and look at them one by one, or be able to look at the top stories in depth. And so your participation is highly encouraged, as I will be looking through your comments, and then that is how we engage together. So thank you so much. I see a lot of you already writing on Neman, Ikarika, Chinedu, Joburg, Justice, Kalistas Lumba. Keep writing, and while you do that, it's always a pleasure to know where you're watching us from. So I will come back and read the comments just a little bit later. But first, let us go through what is making headlines across Africa this afternoon. And we start with Cameroon, where now Cameroon is protesting against criticism from French President Emmanuel Macron over how the Central African state is handling the conflict in its English-speaking regions. On Monday, over 100 youth rallied at the French embassy demanding Macron to apologize. Macron in Paris on Saturday described the human rights situation in Cameroon as intolerable. He was responding to a Cameroonian activist's question about 22 civilians killed in this month in the separatists in the conflict, and witnesses said masked gunmen in military uniform on February 14th launched a raid on a village, killing women and children. Cameroon's army denied targeting civilians and said it was fighting rebels when a woman and 4 children were killed by a fire in a rebel hideout. We go to Libya, where the warring parties in Libya are both reported to have pulled out of the planned United Nations-sponsored negotiations. The United Nations wanted to bring political representatives from the two sides together on Wednesday in Geneva, but politicians based in the eastern Libya, which is controlled by General Khalifa Haftar, said they would not take part because the UN had not approved all the members of their delegation. And then we come back to Uganda, where Ugandan police and opposition politician Robert Changulani, popularly known as Bobi Wine, have given conflicting accounts over the death of a woman in the capital, Kampala, during a confrontation. Bobi Wine, the ex-pop star turned opposition leader, was scheduled to hold a consultative meeting on Monday, but which police blocked, saying he had not met requirements agreed by the Electoral Commission. His supporters demonstrated after being barred from accessing the venue, and police responded by using tear gas and live bullets. That is according to the Daily Monitor newspaper there in Uganda. That later on led to the death of that lady, who apparently was hit by a motorcycle taxi, and I don't know, it's just complicated there. But the intolerance level there in Uganda is just something else, and we shall look at that story. We go back now to South Africa, where dozens of HIV-positive women in South Africa have been sterilized without their consent or were pressured to agree just before giving birth. An official inquiry has found state hospitals have violated the dignity of the women and forced sterilization subjects women to inhumane conditions and torture. The Commission for Gender Equality said when releasing its findings. The Commission, which is a statutory body, concluded a 5-year investigation into 48 cases brought to its attention by 2 civil rights groups, Reuters news agency has reported. And we move over to Lesotho, which is still in southern part of Africa. And if you know the map of that area, Lesotho is completely surrounded by South Africa. So it's inside South Africa. And the latest from that country is that Lesotho is a constitutional monarchy, and while the constitution is explicit that the king cannot be charged with a crime, it is unclear on the fate of a prime minister. It has been reported that Thomas Tambane, who is the prime minister of Lesotho, who is facing some other charges there, now wants to seek immunity for himself and his current wife, Masaya, who has already been charged with the murder of prime minister's former wife, Lipolelo. Prosecutors argue that everyone is equal before the law and Mr. Tambane should not be exception. And we go to Gambia, where the UK High Commissioner to the Gambian, Sharon Wardle, has reiterated that her government remains supportive of the West African state transition to democracy. The Gambia, a popular destination for UK tourists, has been hit by a wave of protest demanding that President Adama Barrow honor the pledge he made when he took office in 2016 to step down after 3 years in office. Mr. Barrow's victory in elections ended the rule of long-serving leader Yahya Jammeh, raising hopes of a new era in the former British colony. Then we come back to East Africa, where now we go to Tanzania, and Tanzanian investigative journalist Eric Kabendera has been released after spending about 7 months behind bars. Kabendera's release comes after he entered into a plea bargain agreement with the prosecution. It saw him being convicted of tax evasion and money laundering, while charges related to organized crime were dropped. On the tax evasion charge, he agreed to pay $75,000 within 6 months. On the money laundering charge, he has already paid a fine of $43,000. He also had to pay $108 for his immediate release. And we move to Togo, where Togo's President Faure Gnassingbé has told his rivals to accept preliminary election results showing he has won by a landslide. The AFP news agency is reporting some Togolese worry that a contest outcome could lead to political violence, and provisional results by the Electoral Commission showed that Mr. Gnassingbé, in power since 2005, had received 75% of the vote, compared with about 18% of opposition leader Abeyome Kojo. President Gnassingbé will secure a fourth term if the results are confirmed. He took office after the death of his father, who ruled for 38 years. I don't know how a country becomes a personal family business. This is what is happening in Togo. And I think it's the same thing that is happening. Which other country? The Bongo. Please help me find out that country. I've forgotten. Omar Bongo. The family. It's like a family. It's like a family entrepreneurship or something, or a family business, or just something that your father dies and then you take over. It's very interesting there, and very worrying times there in Togo. We go back to South Africa, where our South African court has issued an arrest warrant for firebrand opposition politician Julius Malema after failing to appear on charges of unlawfully firing a weapon at a rally in 2018. But the warrant has been suspended until his next scheduled appearance on 8th May. Eyewitnesses News is reporting. A spokesman from the prosecution authority said Mr. Malema had not appeared in court as a part of a prior arrangement, and the warrant had been issued only because it was a standard practice to do so in such a situation. Mr. Malema responded to the news by posting a tweet of a man napping or enjoying his afternoon sleep. And looks like a concept of court. No, I don't know. And we go to South Sudan, where some regional leaders have echoed calls to lift individual sanctions against South Sudan leaders to enable full implementation of the peace agreement. 2 weeks ago, President Salva Kiir called on member countries of the African Union to help in lifting U.S. sanctions against South Sudan leaders. This came after Trump administration sanctioned Vice President Taban Deng Gai. Other members of Kiir's former cabinet, including Kuol Manyang, Dr. Martin Elier, Michael McQuay, were also sanctioned in 2019 for what the U.S. described as obstruction of reconciliation efforts in South Sudan. The sanctioned former officials have since denied all of the accusations. And we end with Nigeria, where Nigeria's Ondo state government has declared Tuesday, that is today, a holiday because the state is hosting President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the governor, Arakundrin Akeredolu, has invited the President to commission project as part of festivities to mark his third year in office. The state's communication office announced that all state workers will not report to work during the holiday to enable them welcome the president. I don't even understand. Well, the country should be, put under some emergency measures because of the insecurity. Some parts of Nigeria clearly are having a very good time, and people are celebrating then because President Muhammadu Buhari is visiting. Now, today is a holiday. What kind of ridiculousness is this? Nigerians, what is happening there? President Buhari is expected to officially open the Ore Industrial Hub and an interchange bridge. Now, the festivities to celebrate Governor Akeredolu's third year in office started on the 21st February and are scheduled to end on 1st of March. What? This is according to a program of events shared on social media. Hey, please, what is happening over there? Let me know really your thoughts on this move by Ondo State government there. And also still in Nigeria. And the People's Democratic Party on Monday asked the Supreme Court to review its judgment, which upheld the victory of President Major General Muhammadu Buhari, who is now retired, in the 2019 presidential election and dismissed the appeal of PDP candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Now, the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Kola Ologbodinyan, who stated this during a press conference in Abuja, also called on the Supreme Court to review its judgment on the governorship elections in 4 other states in Nigeria and the manner in which this case that was challenging President Buhari's re-election was very interesting, and I just wondered how the court process there in Nigeria even operates. You cannot be sworn in as a president or as a member of parliament or as anything if somebody has gone to court to challenge your win. It cannot happen here, and we saw what happened in 2017, and even before that, 2013, the opposition in Kenya still went to court to challenge the presidential results. So what happened in Kenya in 2017? The opposition went to the Supreme Court and challenged the presidential results of the elections that we just had. And so I think we elected about 6, leaders, the MCAs, the members of parliament, women representatives. We elected senators, we elected governors, and then we elected a president, right? So presidential elections were challenged. So what happened then? The president could not be sworn in for his second term. President Uhuru Kenyatta had to wait until the due process of the law took place. The matter was heard and determined. And so what happened, what followed was the win of President Uhuru Kenyatta the first time was nullified by the Supreme Court of Kenya. And so the country was forced to go to an election. We had elections in August, and so we were forced to go to another election in October in the same year. And imagine if President Uhuru Kenyatta had been sworn in. And that is the situation that we were looking at here. Suppose when during the hearing of the Malawian, presidential petition that had, the opposition had gone there to petition against President Peter Mutharika's re-election. And we saw also how that process was. And we saw the first time the opposition went to court immediately after the results were released. And the court felt, okay, there's a case here. And then after a few days, it was all rubbished and all claims were thrown out. But the opposition did not give up. And so they went back to the court and appealed. And so the case had been heard since May last year. We saw the ruling being made this year. A matter of fact, this month. Was it on 4th of February this month? And all the time while we were following the proceedings of this case in the Malawian High Court there, we were wondering, what if Personally, I didn't think President Mutharika's re-election was nullified, being that he was the incumbent and he had already been sworn in as the president. I don't know how you swear in a president whose win is already being challenged. I don't understand. So that is the case. That was the case in Malawi, whose, by the way, the re-election was nullified by the court there, so now the country has to go back to an election in a span of 150 days. Peter Mutharika win was nullified by the court there, so they will start the campaigns, and then the Electoral Commission, which I don't know why they're still even in office as we speak. They're the ones who conducted these botched elections, and the opposition and the civil society and other players have been calling for them to step aside. You cannot come back and purport to lead an election or to officiate over something that you failed to do your best the first time. So I think the right thing to do, even for Malawi, and I don't know if they're able to, constitute a new commission. I don't know what their law says there when it comes to the Electoral Commission in that country, but here I think the law is very specific. It has to be before you bring in new people. There's a timeline for that here, so that they're able to prepare and all that. But now, I don't know how you go back to an election and the same commission that messed the first election are the same people who are now still take over and lead this election. I don't know what kind of outcome Malawians are expecting there, but that was a very good move by Malawian court, and also they cited Kenyan case as a precedence. So that's very interesting. So while we were talking about that, we were also talking about President Buhari's re-election, and President Buhari a petition that was challenged. And what was very interesting in Nigeria is that President Buhari went ahead and was sworn in for his second term while the case was still in court. And I think the ruling was given in October last year, from February when the elections happened, and when it was challenged, I think early March there, Atiku Abubakar went to the court there in Nigeria and challenged. But still, President Buhari was sworn in. And I remember when he was sworn in, the guy he just showed up, I think read a speech, read whatever that was written for him, and he just left immediately. And he did not even attend his inauguration ball. Like the party in the evening, he was a no-show at his own inauguration party. So that was very telling. And people wondered what's really happening. Is it because he knew that he really did not win very squarely, or he's being inaugurated and he knows that there's a case that is pending? So I just don't understand the election laws there in Nigeria, or just what the constitution says in regards to such a matter, because like what we saw happening in Malawi, it was very people thought, well, the president has been sworn in, and so most likely he might. But in a chance that, the elections are nullified, what next now for Malawi? Thank God there's not been bloodshed. Thank God the situation has been contained. The country is preparing to go for another election, which I think will be another setup for failure if the same electoral commission are left to conduct these elections. But in Nigeria, President Buhari was sworn in, and the election and the petition was thrown out, in October. But the elections happened in February. The president was sworn in just a few, days later, and he was continuing with his duties there. Even as the case was in court. So I've never understood how Nigerian law works there. Amos Love, you're saying, please tell the world what Buhari and his Boko Haram are doing in Nigeria. Oh, well, yesterday we talked about it, and the ridiculous bill that I think one of the senators has introduced there in the Senate, and I think is still debated. It passed through the first reading, and so it is something that perhaps might see the day of light. With the kind of leaders we have, or with the kind of leaders Nigeria have, I would not be surprised. And so the senator was proposing that the former members of Boko Haram who have repented should be brought in and rehabilitated, and I don't know, be absorbed in the army. I don't know what they think they will achieve by that, because it's very possible that Boko Haram can outsmart the government of Nigeria and pretend or talk to some of its members and say, you go back to the society and tell them that you have repented, so that you're able to go through this ridiculous rehabilitation process to the what, and then join the army, go there and infiltrate and make sure that you get us the intelligence, you get us the information we need. So Nigeria, even as they grapple with this matter of Boko Haram, should be very careful about reintegrating back members of Boko Haram and even having them back in the army. From what I hear from our viewers here who are from that part of the world, you're saying that part of Africa, and especially Biafrans, I think you've been very categorical in saying, there has been members of Boko Haram who have been absorbed into the Nigerian army. They have not gone through the rehabilitation process. They have not been vetted. They're from Boko Haram and they have been absorbed in the Nigerian army. I don't know how true that is, but you've been saying that is what is indeed happening. But when I heard these sentiments from this senator, I was like, okay, so what is this government really up to when it comes to the security of the people of Nigeria? So this is something that is being debated over there. So now we see the PDP, Mr. Abubakar, wants to now go back to court and ask the Supreme Court to review the judgment that upheld the win of Buhari. I don't know what chances he has for him to win this time. Buhari is just continuing, and this ridiculousness that I just read before that news, that now Nigeria's Ondo State, they're having President Buhari visit that state today. And according to their governor, Mr. Ara Kurin, today is a national holiday in that state because the president is visiting. What? It's on a Tuesday. How do you build an economy? Why is it a holiday over there while part of Nigeria, men and women and children cannot sleep at night because of insecurity? Well, there's a matter that is very urgent to the country. Why is it necessary to have a holiday because the president is visiting? What kind of buffoonery is this? I don't understand. The president in the Republic of Kenya visits this country, commissions things around the country, and when he gets there, the rest of the country, people who are not affected, that only that part of the country is visiting, perhaps they'll be on a standstill from what? Until maybe he passes, or if he is having a rally or whatever it is. And that's it. Maybe an hour or two, and then people will go back to their works, because we have an economy to build. But you're going to give a public holiday on a Tuesday because the head of state is visiting to commission. What is it that President Buhari is going to commission there? He's going to officially open the ore industrial hub there and an interchange bridge. So because he's going to commission and why is the president commissioning a bridge? Why is the minister for transport? Is he that idle? Are there no other urgent matters that the head of state in Nigeria should be looking at today? For what I know, Boko Haram is one of the top, things that should be bothering this president. Not going to commission and to open an interchange bridge and to open the industrial hub, and then when he goes to the state, the Ondo State, now it is a public holiday. What kind of ridiculousness is this? So today is a public holiday, and the state's communication office, the Ondo State Communication Office, announced that all state workers will not report to work during the holiday to enable them welcome the president. Are you serious? Are we still living in those? Can you imagine President Trump going to another state there in the U.S. right now? They're busy with the campaigns, and he goes there, and it's a holiday. Or even just here in Kenya. No, that is unacceptable, and I don't know. And so today, the festivities also, this very also ridiculous Governor Mr. Akeredolu is celebrating his third year in office. So that's why you shouldn't vote him again next time, Nigerians who reside in that part of the country. He's celebrating 3 years in office. And so because he's celebrating 3 years in office, he started celebrating, the festivities started on the 21st of February. And they will be ending on the 1st of March. Seriously, these are the kind of people we elect into offices. Mr. What is his name? Governor Akeredolu. he's not in isolation. We have a lot of ridiculous leaders in Africa, and then you wonder why, with all that we have, with all the wealth that Nigeria has, it's still the country with, according to the statistics, World Bank, yes, Nigeria has the highest number of poverty in the world. It beats Somalia. It beats a country like India, who really, the poverty levels are just on another level, but Nigeria beats it. It beats South Sudan, who has been suffering from years of, civil war that has refused for that country to come up. But the leaders, signed the peace deal on Saturday, and so we are hopeful that South Sudan will pick up and, try to keep up with the rest of the world in terms of development and elevating poverty and diseases and all of that, the things that has been, a part of the people of South Sudan. But Nigeria, with all that it has, Nigeria in the world sits as the number one country with the poorest people in the world. And in case you're wondering why, because they elect leaders like this one here, Governor Akeredolu, the governor of Ondo State, who, because the president is visiting that state today, he has declared today is a holiday. And on top of that, he is marking 3 years as a governor, and so the festivities started on the 21st of February and will be ending on the 1st of March. I don't even know how that is a whole week. That is a whole week. Celebrating what? You're supposed to not celebrate. You're supposed to be serving your people. So I don't know. The things that, the kind of mediocrity that we encourage in this continent. And then you know what? Nigeria will go to an election and they will elect this leader again. I just don't understand why we keep electing leaders who are ridiculous, who can't even get a grip of themselves, making ridiculous pronouncements, and it's very self-serving here. That is what I'm getting from that story. So that is a shame, and the fact that President Buhari knew and still allowed this holiday to happen. It should not have happened. He should have said, the people of Ondo State, go to work, go build the economy of that state, and in return build the big economy of Nigeria. Whatever I'm coming just to visit just a small part of that state, and I'll be done. I'll commission that bridge that is going to commission. Then I'll go back to sleep, because it appears he's not even talking about Boko Haram. He's not even worried. He's not even trying to find solutions. And he has refused to fire his security officials there. So he'll just go back to slumber, and then Nigerian continue to suffer. And of course, Biafrans, you bear the brunt of that mayhem that is happening in that part of the country. So it's quite unfortunate there. So another ridiculous thing that happened, Cameroonians, very young men, I think they were hired, yes, they were hired by the government of Mr. Paul Biya to go and picket at, the embassy, the French embassy there in Yaoundé, and they were demanding for President Emmanuel Macron to apologize over some sentiments he made over the weekend. He was being interviewed, and this activist, or this journalist activist, asked him about the situation, what is happening in the Anglophone region of Cameroon, and also, so when he was answering that question, he came out and Mr. Macron said, what the situation in Cameroon is intolerable. He was responding, of course, to the question by about 22 civilians. The question about the over 22 civilians that died on the 14th of February. And he also said and reiterated that he put a lot of pressure on President Paul Biya to release opposition leader Mr. Maurice Kamto. So they did not like that. So now what Mr. Paul Biya did, he made sure that somebody looked for a few jobless youth and took them to protest at the embassy of about 100 of them, just a handful of them. What a shame to go picket. I don't know what Mr. Macron said here that was out of order, because what happened to the Anglophones is intolerable. In fact, a former U.S. ambassador has come out and said this is the hallmark of human rights abuse, and now ICC should come in and investigate. So it's not a very small matter as Mr. Paul Biya's government might want to treat it as. So if, and I think right now, if France is now waking up and is talking. France has been very passive when it comes to the matters of Anglophone. They have not been actively addressing this matter. We've seen other countries coming out very strongly. We've seen the US with all its, problems. We've seen the administration coming out very strongly and speaking against, the human rights abuses that have been happening in Ambazonia region there, in the Anglophone part of Cameroon. And France has been very passive. France has refused, to be drawn into this conversation. But now we see that French President Emmanuel Macron came out and said, no. What happened in the Anglophone region there is unacceptable. Women and children were murdered, and young men and older men. People were murdered there that should not have been murdered, and the Cameroonian army did it, and so that is something that is intolerable. So this is Macron that was, and he was saying, and so now some young men who are supposed to be in school, who are supposed to be working somewhere, but because of the bad economy and the bad governance that has been under Paul Biya, they were idle. So on a Monday, somebody was able to get them and take them to picket at the French embassy. And if you start picketing at the French embassy, Cameroon and France has been very supportive of this, government, and so I think hard times lay ahead for President Paul Biya. And I'm just hoping, if there's a place that needs a regime change, that place is Cameroon. If there's a place that needs regime change in the African continent, that place is Cameroon, because what is happening in that country is unacceptable. Even the Francophone part of the country is still suffering from some of these ills that comes from the government of Mr. Paul Biya. So it's interesting. Akamanchu Ella, you're saying a Cameroon situation is ludicrous, and power mongers, we the Ambazonian need nothing but independence. And Nongchu, you're saying, Miriam, you need to see how the young boys who were assembled before the French embassy in Yaoundé fought for their transport money equivalent to $2 and food. Look at that abuse. Is that not even human rights abuse? The young men who were it's on a Monday, they're supposed to be in a school somewhere or at work, interning, or just doing something meaningful with their lives. You're going to collect them and bring them to picket over very something that your government is not right about it. And then just 100. I mean, see, he couldn't even afford to hire a bigger crowd. That is how bad a situation is there in Cameroon. So that is a shame on Paul Biya's government, and I think more African leaders need to come out and speak and call this for what it is. I've not seen any of them tweet about that massacre that happened there against the Anglophones. African leaders should start holding their counterparts accountable. But the problem is a lot of them have also very poor track records when it comes to human rights abuses, when it comes to other matters of importance like governance and democracy. So they really don't have the moral authority, and because they lack that, and that is why we have the AU the way it is, because they are the ones who are there in those top positions. So now us as Africans, citizens, then we have a responsibility to demand and to ask and to actively participate in to change and to demand for the Africa that we want in all individual countries. We must start now to actively participate and demand for better, because we see here from what we see across, really there's nothing much to smile about. So what else that I wanted to speak about today? Of course, that matter of Togo. The president was elected. He was first elected in 2005 after the death of his father, who had led Togo for 38 years. If there's also another place that requires a regime change, that will be a good candidate. I'm just uncomfortable with places where leaders have stayed in forever. They're not bringing any meaningful changes to their people. And I don't know how these people have been blindsided, and they can't even, I can't. So if there's a place that requires a clean sweep, but now President Nasibe was elected back for another term, and he inherited Togo. Literally, it's like a family thing. He inherited Togo after his father died, and his father had already led Togo for 38 years. I don't know. And then he won with 72%. I don't know if the opposition, led by Mr. Kojo, will go now to the court and challenge Mr. Gnasigbe's win there. It's another sad situation in Africa. And the threat of democracy and proper governance there. And so Mr. Julius Malema seems to be having a problem there. He has a warrant of arrest over his head by charges of unlawfully firing a weapon at a rally. But this is something that happened in 2018. Come on now. Why are you now looking for him now to charge him? But he's needed there. He was supposed to show up in court. I don't know if he did or not. So very interesting times there. And Libya still a stalemate, and we see the United Nations sponsored negotiations. The warring parties are reported to have pulled out, and so I don't know if peace in Libya is in the foresight in the near future, or that is something that it will be, people in Libya there, the innocent people will continue to die. I don't know. After the talks were returned to the African Union, I got very fidgety because I don't trust African Union with such a process. They've been there and nothing has changed. The outside influence has overrode the proper functioning of African Union, so they are unable to handle some of the things that they should be handling in Africa as they should. And we've seen it in South Sudan, we've seen it in Biafra, we've seen it in Ambazonia, we've seen it in other parts of Africa where terrible things happens against Africans, but the African Union cannot really pull itself up and make very bold statements and call out these leaderships, because African Union is indeed representing a certain interest, and so it's very difficult for it to come up and speak out against some ills that happen in Africa. So I cannot finish this show before mentioning South Sudan here. And Moses Godwin, you're saying you're watching from Switzerland. Thank you so much for watching. And Biafrans, I don't know what is the latest out there, but I saw a few, I think after the burial of his parents, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, came out and said now the war and for demand for referendum has only been renewed after his parents dying. He said now there's nothing on the way. He can just go on full throttle and make sure that Biafra becomes a nation, and he will continue to agitate for that. And so a lot of things have come out. And also the other day, I think he was talking Mr. Kano, and he continued to reiterate the fact that the person that is in power in Nigeria is not really President Buhari, but is another lookalike from Sudan. There, he calls him Jubril, and it's very interesting. Also, Biafrans, wherever you're watching, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I don't know which part of the world you're situated, but I know you're all over the globe. And so our viewers from South Sudan, and now it's good news, but the big part of rebuilding that country now begins, because I'm sure South Sudan's out there really wants to come back home and help in the rebuilding of their country. And some regional leaders are now calling for some sanctions to be lifted against these leaders in South Sudan. I'm saying, okay, as much as I would like the sanctions to be lifted, maybe it's too early, because people like Michael McQuay, they were seen as the people who were standing in the way of peace. And now the sanctions that were issued, and the last one that was issued to the the deputy president there, Mr. Taban Ndeng, that is allied to President Salva Kiir. So what they're saying is that for the full implementation of the peace agreement, these sanctions should be lifted so that it's easy to implement this peace agreement, because they just signed. So now we need them to implement some of the things that are included there in this peace agreement. I don't know if the US especially will hear this, because they're the ones who have been slapping these leaders with these sanctions. If you ask me, I think it's a little too early. Let's just see how they're handling this whole process. Let's just watch their behavior and see, are they up to date? Do they have a renewed spirit to see a peaceful South Sudan and a united South Sudan, a country that really works for its people? But this is a conversation that we shall continue having. I think in the afternoon, Dr. Masanga will come with a special coverage of South Sudan, and so we shall talk about that over in the afternoon. It is afternoon, but over at that time, Vincent Joseph Biafra, you're saying we must get our freedom back. Freedom, yes, we're saying good morning to you. It's an afternoon here, about 13 minutes past 1 p.m. In Nairobi or East Africa. And Anong Chu, you're saying independent Ambazonia will be the first country to openly recognize and embrace an independent Biafra because it is the right of the people of Biafra to be independent. Biafra, oh yeah, and Raxton Lag, you're saying watching and listening live from the city that never sleeps. That is New York City, sending love to everyone in the studios over there in the beautiful motherland indeed. And the motherland also sends much love to you. And I want to thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. Mecca Sunday, you just joined and you're saying you're watching from Dubai. I know it's an afternoon there, perhaps the same time as here. Thank you so much for tuning in. These are stories we shall continue to talk about and cover here as Africa and as Punchline Africa, because as Africans, we have a responsibility to tell our own stories. We have a responsibility to give our own version of how we see our Africa and how some of the solutions, we have a responsibility to come up with them so that we can build an Africa that we truly, truly want and truly, truly deserve. So let's meet here later in just a few hours. For now, I would like to just call it a day. Not fully, because I'll be back here, I think, in an hour's time or so. So please, let's meet back then and continue talking about Africa. For now, thank you so much for your company. I thank you so much for participating in today's show. I'll see you again later. My name is Miriam Ogoto.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.